So with trauma, we're talking about trauma creating the nafs, right? In some way, truly creating the nafs. But in another really important way, it's also creating the saints. Trauma is creating the awliya, creating the saints, or playing a role in creating. Why? Because who are the saints? People that come back to Allah time and time again and live in their hearts. And most times, these people have difficult lives. They really test it. And we ask Allah Ta'ala for afiyah and His lutuf, His gentleness, right? But these people oftentimes really tested. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said that, the most tested amongst you are the prophets. I mean, they're just of a different class of human being, the prophets. They're just a different order of human being. And they can take what we can't take. We can't take what they take, right? But the best of us are the awliya. And the awliya take the most of us. They're most like the prophets. They're not prophets. They can't take what the prophets say, alayhim salam, but they take a lot. And those most like them are most dear to Allah Ta'ala. There's something about being in the real world and being able to handle things, right? And that is actually one of the greatest gifts that you find, that when you heal, your wounds and you access the heart, not only are you now embodied, not only are you now feeling, not only are you now able to access things that you could not access before, but you can also take more. That's the proof of healing trauma, is that actually you can take more crap. Sorry. But you can just take more stuff, right? And it doesn't shake you as much. It doesn't scatter you. You don't fragment as easy anymore. Someone who's really overwhelmed and doesn't have a big container, if you will, just the slightest thing sets them off. It's like a child, you know. You look at the child, in a certain way, and you may find them just totally melt down. Just no container. They go straight into the nets, right? They get triggered. We talk about things triggered. But the people of Allah, the people of healed hearts that are embodied, or in the real world, they can take a lot. And they may not even show it. I mean, they'll break down with Allah in the middle of the night, but they may not show it. But they can take a lot, right? And that's a sign of someone who's healed. That's one of the signs, right? Your container becomes really vast. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now again, we don't have the heart of the Prophet. There's no way we can have the heart of the Prophet. But his heart, he was always grief stricken, right? I think the term is mutawasil al-ahzan. He was just, constantly in grief. Also, he was also always smiling, but he was also in grief, But one of my teachers said, we don't know the grief of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, you don't even try to measure your grief to his grief, because his grief was tremendous, because he had knowledge of your grief and your grief and your grief and your grief. And he had knowledge of what was happening and what's happening now in Gaza when he was, in Medina. And he'd weep and he'd weep, and he knew all of this, right? He knew his mercy and his grief is beyond any of our grief, right? But that's what, you're tasked with, basically, when you have the heart. I'm not trying to dissuade you from healing now. We want to heal, we want to grow, inshallah ta'ala, expansion of heart, expansion of state. We can contain more, we can hold more. That's what a healed heart looks like, right? It's not that you don't experience any more hardship. Quite the contrary. We're in the world, we're in the dunya, we're going to experience grievous harm. But how do we maintain our integrity? How do we not fragment from it, from our heart, when confronted with these realities? That's the work, right? That's the work. And we can't become integrated unless we have something that fragments. It's the opposites. Allah uses opposites in the world, right? To prove the good, to prove the truth, to prove the real. There has to be, there's no meaning of truth if there isn't falsehood. There's no meaning of light if there isn't darkness. There's no meaning of the heart if there isn't the nafs, right? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any type of relevance. But in its opposite, in relation to its opposite, it's distinguished, it's discerned, right? And now Furqan is established, and now a path, now a path. Inshallah ta'ala.